Hello, and welcome back to the Marketing for Learning podcast. And happy Friday if you're listening to this on day one. I hope you've had a wonderful week and that you're looking forward to the weekend. I want to leave you this week with a little bit of food for thought about L&D's biggest challenge, the engagement challenge. Come October, Maths has been going for 5 years, which absolutely blows both mine and Ashley's minds. But in our first conversations with L&D teams, people were saying we're struggling to get engagement. And then in conversations I'm having this week, people are saying I'm struggling to get engagement. So why is it, after 5 years of us being in operation and many moons of the world of L&D, why are we still having this same challenge time and time again? Why haven't we found that silver bullet to engagement? Why aren't we doing something to solve that problem? And honestly, the TLDR of this episode, I've got to say it, I don't think we're trying enough. I don't think L&Ders are putting enough effort in to actually solving the problem. And instead we're standing behind reasons, I might call them excuses if I'm feeling a bit mean, of everything else that's important. But really, when we think about it, what else is important? If nobody is taking our learning, then what's the point in your role? So what's more important than getting people engaged? So in this episode, I'm going to talk through a few of the reasons why I think engagement is still L&D's biggest challenge, and also give you some pointers in how I think, with my marketing mindset, we can change that. And truthfully, I don't think it's that complicated. Okay, so I've already said that I think we're focusing on the wrong things. And perhaps that was a little bit mean on L&D teams. Because actually I think some of the problem comes from business leaders focusing on the wrong things. Historically, L&D have almost gotten away with reporting on smile sheets and bums on seats and things that don't really matter. I think a big part of our engagement problem is we focus on that still. Because historically we have reported on it, perhaps you still are, perhaps you're still feeding back in that kind of data to the C-suite of your organisation. Yep, so many people attended and they loved it. Great, woohoo, my job's done. Because that's what we're reporting on, that's what we're focusing on. So we want to get a nice tick at the end of a training program. So maybe we're focusing on things like the lunch and things that don't really matter. And we're just trying to get people there in any way possible, rather than thinking of how can we actually get people to come to the training, but engage with the training and build a long-term relationship with learning. And what that does, it actually undermines the value that L&D can bring to an organisation. The value that every single person listening to this podcast knows we can have. Because we're focusing on things that really don't matter and don't show our worth. So instead of doing that, we need to be the change. Yes, there are arts in for smile sheets and bums on seats, to say that line again. But prove your worth. Change what you report on. Start thinking about performance change and enhancing the business. Report on how your L&D strategy links with a business strategy. How you are helping the business move forward towards their strategic goals. Rather than 15 people turn up and they all loved it. Demonstrate the value that we are bringing to organisations, because we are. But the longer we keep reporting on things that don't really matter, the longer that's going to be our priority. And another thing that I hear a lot from learning professionals that I speak to is, well, we're treated as order takers. People just come to us, say they want a learning course and expect us to churn it out. And that's really frustrating. It doesn't give us the time to focus on things like engagement or how we're actually going to hook people into this program and the long-term impact and the performance change it can have. We're just creating a learning course. It's a off-the-shelf kind of product. Do you know how we stop that? We stop taking the order. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, I need an e-learning course on project management and can you get it to me by the end of the month? Ask why. Who's it for? What's the purpose? Is an e-learning course the right solution? How can we make sure that people are actually going to learn something from this and apply it in their day-to-day job? What are the tangible takeaways that people can apply straight away? And what do we want them to do in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months afterwards? How does this impact the business strategy? How does this help us be more productive, more efficient? What is it that we're actually getting out of this? Ask the questions. Push back. Yes, sometimes, I get it. We've got stakeholders. Sometimes you are just going to have to create the e-learning course because somebody wants it. But still, if you change the narrative about what you do and the value you can bring, people will start realising it. We can't sit throwing a strop that people don't see the value we bring without telling people, hey, this is the value we bring. But one way we can make that a little bit easier is by networking and partnering with other business units within the organisation. Think about a marketer you know and think about who they're friends with at work. Yeah, of course, they're going to have their fellow marketers that they hang out with. But I would bet my bottom dollar that every good marketer you know has friends in pretty much every different business unit. When I was in-house and in every company I've ever worked for, even going back to my undergrad placement, I had friends in every single department. I had friends that were in finance, friends that were in HR, friends that were in product management, friends that were in sales, customer success. I knew at least one person in each of those teams, and I'd make an effort to actually just chat to them. I'm thinking back to my undergrad placement, and we had a ping pong table in the kitchen. Shock. Tell me that you had your undergrad placement in the noughties without telling me. We had a ping pong table, and I would, if I saw a couple of people from the sales team or the customer success or any of the other teams hanging out in there, I'd stroll past with a drink and be like, oh, you're right, guys, how are you? And typically they'd be like, oh, yeah, we're just having a break because... And they'd tell me their problems. They'd rant about their day job. I then knew what was going on in all those departments. So I knew when I needed them, I knew how to hook them in. And no, it wasn't always manipulation. I'm quite a sociable person and I love these people. I do love making friends. But I knew what was going on. Imagine if you had that insight into all the different business units of your organisation. Imagine if you understood what was going on. So when they come to you and they said, hey, we need an e-learning course on X topic, you could say, well, actually, you were telling me that this is the issue. I think this might be a better solution. Then you're taking more of that consultative approach. And your colleagues across the organisation will start seeing the impact that you can bring. So really, I think the first step to us overcoming our engagement problem is us focusing on the things that really matter. We need to stop just accepting this narrative that we're order takers or that we care about smile sheets and bums on seats. We need to start being the change that we need to see. We can't just keep blaming other people. The next reason I think we still struggle with engagement in L&D after all these years is actually how we think about our audiences. We think of them as learners. And that's hugely problematic. Whenever I talk about this topic, people say to me, oh, that's just semantics. But it's not. If you think about the people that are taking your learning as learners, you are starting off from a mindset that they want to learn, that they know how to learn, that their primary focus is learning, that they care about learning, that they want to do it. all of this we're assuming by calling them learners. We forget that there are things that they're doing away from learning, that they have different priorities. Learning's our priority, but it's probably not theirs. So we end up not finding the right solutions to getting them involved because we're only thinking about them as learners, as people that want to learn or people that have to learn. If we change that narrative and we start thinking about them as human beings with lives and jobs and families and priorities and other things going on and objectives of their own, desires, wants, needs, fears, pain points, if we start thinking about them as real human beings, that's when we can start doing things that are actually going to get them engaged. The longer we keep thinking, you're a learner, how can we get you engaged? We add a time limit to it. We make it mandatory. We incentivize it. It's all surface level stuff that isn't going to create that long-term relationship with learning that we need if we really want to overcome the engagement problem. If you start thinking about how they've got other things on their plate and other priorities, and how can we link their priorities with our priorities, and how can we communicate that better? Actually, how can we communicate with them better, full stop? Is email the right channel? Or should we be going somewhere else? Do they hang out somewhere? Should we go and meet them there and grab their attention in the flow of the work? If you start thinking about these people as employees at the very least, but as human beings, you're going to uncover better ways to solve the engagement problem. It really is more than semantics. Please stop thinking about them as learners. If you think externally, if you think about, I don't know, Coca-Cola, they don't think about their audience as Coca-Cola drinkers because they are trying to get people that aren't Coca-Cola drinkers involved. You can't be something if you haven't done it yet. So they want more people to buy their product. So we need to do the same. We can't think about them as learners if they're not learning. If they're not learning, they're not learners. And even when they are learning, they're still human beings before they're a learner. So we need to change our narrative. As learning and development teams, we need to change how we think and approach our audience engagement. And honestly, when I've been working with clients and I've seen that change and that pivot in them, the people who stop thinking about learners are the ones that get there quicker. And lastly, the final reason that I'm going to share today, I have a million reasons why I think engagement is still L&D's biggest problem. But the last one I'm going to share today, probably the one that you're not going to like hearing the most. And it's about looking big picture. I think too many L&D teams focus on the wrong areas at the wrong time. If you think marketing and marketing alone is going to solve your engagement problem, I'm here as the world's biggest advocate for marketing for learning, who has written more marketing for learning strategies than I could even count at this stage, saying marketing is not going to solve your engagement problems on its own. You can't outmarket a bad learning experience. People aren't stupid. It's 2024. People are always online. We have a more customer-focused world than we've ever had before. We have people that have great experiences day in, day out. Our audience have great experiences day in, day out. They know what things should be like. They know how things can engage them. They have things like social media, even like Netflix and Now TV and all of those kind of things that grab our attention and keep our attention. They know what they expect, and they expect the learning to match up to those expectations. So I could come into your organisation and create like a show-stopping marketing campaign, like one that rivals things that you see on the telly. I could really create you a great marketing campaign that's going to get Everyone talking. Have you seen that? Oh my God, have you got involved? Wow, have you seen the advert? Have you seen that poster? Have you read that email? I can create that for you. But then if they follow through and they go to your learning experience and it's terrible, they're not stupid. They're going to drop out. They know their time is precious. If they go through to your learning experience and it doesn't match up to the quality of your marketing, or the marketing doesn't set the right expectations, they're going to drop out. And the worst thing about that is you've let them down, and it is so much harder to then reconnect them with learning further down the line. So we need to be thinking big picture. We need to firstly be thinking of the entire learning experience, but not just for one particular program or particular topic. We need to think about every learning experience that person will have with us. Because it only takes one bad experience, one thing to disgruntle them and get them annoyed and make them drop out, that will ruin their relationship with you. We need to be thinking about every step of the way. We need to be thinking about all the different touch points these people will have with us, and that making sure that they're all good, that they're all providing what we've said they're going to provide. Even down to your learning platforms. Are they easy to use? If you have a piece of marketing that's really got people engaged and make them want to click through, and then they click through and they can't find what they're looking for, what your marketing has told them to go and find, because your learning platform is too complicated and the user experience is terrible, that's going to annoy them. You've wasted their time. It's all about trust. In both marketing and learning, we want to build trust with our audiences. You need to make sure you are looking at your entire learning offering if you want to build and maintain that trust. We often think of engagement as an after problem, after we've created the learning. We just need to promote it better, then the engagement will go up. That's not the case. That is not how it works. We need to be thinking about our audiences from the inception of the program through to the very last moment, and thinking about what impact it will have on them and how we can help them. We need to make sure that the quality of our learning is good enough for 2024. So maybe a bit of introspection is needed. Let's stop blaming other people and start thinking about, actually, is our learning good enough? Are we holding ourselves to a high enough standard? Do we give them a good learning experience from the very first time they find out about us, all the way through to becoming really loyal advocates of our offering? Think about it as somebody that's just bought an iPhone. They can't get it working, so they've come to you in the Apple Store and they've said, this isn't working. It won't turn on properly, and when it does turn on, I can't get through all the steps to actually make a phone call. It's really annoying. And you just go, oh yeah, that is annoying, isn't it? And stare at them. It gets awkward. They storm out. They've given up on the iPhone, and they'll never buy an iPhone again. And not only will they never buy an iPhone again, they're probably not going to trust the iPad, the MacBook, the AirPods, or any of your other products, are they? Because they had that really bad experience with you. That is what I see happening time and time again in learning. We go, yeah, the learning experience could be better. We'll deal with it one day. And then we expect that when we deal with it, we expect people to suddenly want to engage with us. If you're in that situation, you need to put more time and effort into changing the narrative, persuading your people that you have changed. And don't put that time and effort in if it hasn't actually changed. If you convince somebody, hey, please give us a second chance. Please come and engage with this learning. This one, it is worth your time. And then they get there and it still is not worth their time, then you are completely crushing any trust that they could potentially have with you. So start thinking of your overall learning offering and product. Engagement isn't an afterthought. It isn't an end of the journey thing. You should be thinking about engagement from the very first point that your L&D team forms. It should be baked through your L&D strategies. It should be a topic of conversation in every single L&D meeting. How are we going to get our people engaged with this program, with learning as a whole, and everything in between. So I hope this episode has given you a bit of food for thought, and I hope it's starting to help you reframe the engagement problem in your mind. Yes, marketing will help you massively. Of course, I believe that. My whole job is marketing for learning. This whole podcast is about marketing for learning. Yes, it is really going to help transform your learning function. But it shouldn't be an afterthought. Marketing shouldn't come at the end. And actually, we really need to be thinking bigger picture about everything we do. Every single element of our L&D team. All of it impacts our ability to get people engaged with our offering. So as always, if you have any questions, comments, queries, objections to anything I've said today, please feel free to get in touch. I do love hearing from you guys. But if not, I will see you all next Friday on the next episode of the Marketing for Learning podcast. See you later, guys.